This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba for another technical diving tips, techniques, and trips video. In video 110, we discussed securing the DSMB. In this video, we're going to discuss securing the finger spool. If you find these videos educational, please subscribe to the channel. Shortly after releasing video 110, the video received a comment from Lars, who I believe is a subscriber. Thanks for the comment, Lars. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what Lars is talking about, and then we're going to take a look at some other things associated with securing the finger spool. One of the things we do during the practical application session for people taking our advanced courses or our lower level technical diving courses is have them set up their finger spool. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set it up the way that we normally demonstrate that, and then we're going to get to the point that Lars is discussing. So we have a finger spool, and what we do is we kind of rewind this a little bit, and the idea behind taking the line off and either cutting it off or rewinding it on one side is to give you some access to the holes here that we're ultimately going to either feed the line through or we're going to use a bolt snap on. And so when we do this, what we're going to do is we're going to take off about 2 feet of this line here. I'm going to probably be off screen, and then we're going to tie a bowline knot here. And the bowline knot is the one knot you need to know for the advanced class. And if you are doing a introductory technical diving class, you should know how to do this from your advanced course. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a bowline, the knot that doesn't slip, about with a foot loop. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to tie an overhand knot around this. I might need to redo this. I'm going to tie an overhand knot at the point where the bowline is. Okay. And what you want to do is you want to make the loop with the overhand knot to be an inch to a half an inch wide, so you have like a little loop there, and the reason for that will come apparent later. Then what you want to do is on the loose end you want to tie another knot which is about a half inch to an inch long, and so this is what it looks like when you have all this done. I'm going to pull this a little tighter so it won't come loose. Okay, all right, so we have our setup here, and let's talk first about about what you do if you're going to carry your DSMB separately and it's not going to be pre-attached. So one of the ways that we're doing this, that you can do this, and that was in the video, is you can take the loop and you can take your double ender, put it through there, and what you could do is you can stretch it tight so that the line can't unravel, and then you can put the double ender through there. Because you're using the double ender to stretch the line, you have a lot of leverage. So the potential disadvantage of this approach, particularly if you're not going to secure this in a pouch or a pocket like we talked about in video 110, is the fact that this can come loose if it is just knocked at the right angle. And this happens to people all the time, and nobody knows exactly what circumstances it occurs in, but it's possible that it happens just like I demonstrated. So what Lars is talking about is something that we sometimes use, and that is to take the loose end of this and to stick it through one of the holes like that. That's why you need sufficient clearance for that. And to take the double ender and stick it through here like this. Okay, so because there's this is not a solid linkage, the probability of this coming loose is much less if you have it in your pocket, or even if you have it hanging off of you, the probability of coming loose is much less. So that is what Lars is talking about. Now, if you decide to have, pull this back out, if you decide to pre-attach or pre-assemble your DSMB, you'll take whatever tie point you're going to be using, and you'll put the big loop from the bowline here, and then you'll pass the reel through it, and it's going to be pre-attached. And so the vast majority of times that I've used this finger spool is actually to deploy the DSMB, not for other purposes. I have used it one time. I used it in low visibility to make sure I didn't get lost when I wanted to go off of a wreck. And another time, I think there's a video number 2 in this series, is I used the finger spool as a way of controlling my ascent in a heavy drift situation, so I didn't leave the wreck even though I was doing my safety stop. All right, so you have this situation here, and then if we use method number 1, then we do the same thing. We take the line, put it through, put the bolt step, the double ender, through the little loop on the end, and then take it and then again stretch it through and use our leverage to put it through. Okay, and again, this does have the potential that this will get knocked off. So if we were going to take and use method number 2, what we could do is we could take this same thing and feed it from the inside through, and this is where you have to have the gap in your spool, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to feed it through here. So this is the part that I mentioned in the comment when I was responding to Lars, that it can get a little bit fiddly. Okay, so I have my loop with my tight line, and I have it open, and it's very tight, and I am having some difficulty here right now getting it through. There, I got it. And again, you can hang it like this, and that way there's less of a chance of it coming loose, or you could do this, although it's probably better to go like this. And so that's what you could do with this. All right, so what I'm going to discuss next is I'm going to discuss a way to make this a little bit easier for you if you'd like to have method number 2. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at that next. All right, so what I have is I have a little wire tie. I don't know how small it needs to be, but this is a small one that I'm going to be using. And what this does is it makes it a little easier when you're sticking your line through. So all you got to do is take the wire tie, and I think a half an inch long loop or an inch long loop is plenty, and cut off the end, and make sure you dispose of your plastic parts appropriately. So now what we have is we just have a little plastic loop, and so why this works better, let's take the tension off of that. Why this works better, or can work better for you, is because instead of having a little piece of loose line that you have flopping around, the wire tie is more tight, and so then what you can do is you can push the wire tie through and then hook it through. Okay, so exactly the same thing that Lars is talking about, but what we're doing in this case is we're using a wire tie to make it easier for us to act as a little end to push through the thing. So you can use different size wire ties. I think for this application, a small thin wire tie like this is certainly okay. But if you wanted to use a longer, stronger, wider wire tie, that could certainly be done. Okay, so here's something that you could do with that. An entirely different way of securing the finger spool, if you're not going to attach it to the DSMB, is to use the following technique. Here what we're going to do is we're going to take the double ender and we're going to put it through the end of the loop, and we're going to turn it upside down, and we're going to put a earlier section of the line through the other end of the double ender, and we will rotate the entire finger spool around while holding the double ender in place. Like this, very hard. And what this will do is it will allow you to stick the finger spool and the double ender in a pocket. Of course, what you could do, because the gates are exposed, if you have it with the gates on the outside, is you can manipulate the gate and put it around an external D-ring. However, that's probably not a good idea, and it's probably better just to leave it like this in your pocket rather than carry it externally. Okay, so an entirely different way of securing the finger spool. Now I'm going to talk about one more thing, and that's why I have this DSMB here. And talk about this, get that one out of the way. So one of the things that I do on many of my DSMBs is I put an extra snap in here, and this comes in handy for a couple of different things. One thing is if you decide that you don't want to attach your finger spool to it, it's very easy to take this and open this up and stick this on the end of the loop of the line that we made. And then you can also use this in a lot of the lower level technical diving courses. They have a thing called failed DSMB. And so once you send one DSMB up, you give the signal that it's broken. And then the people that are doing the skill have to attach a second DSMB to it. So in that case, the one DSMB that's on the surface, you just open up the snap here, stick it through, and then close it, and then you can inflate this and go up to the surface. All right, so this particular type of snap is called a trigger snap versus a regular conventional snap like this. And you'll see that there's like the gate that is opening here. And what we have here is a different type of mechanism. This actually rotates around this little pin right here. And you'll notice that it has a left side and it has a right side. So I consider this type of snap, the trigger snap, to be much more reliable than I do a gate type snap. And so on anything that I think is important, like a light or in this case a DSMB, what I'll do is I'll take off whatever I had on there before, single bolt snap or double ender, and I'll use one of these trigger snaps. For this application, a lot of the trigger snaps that you see out there have a solid bail. You can't really stick something through there, so what you have to do is you have to put like a quick link through there, or what you have to do is you have to get a shackle one like this. So if you get a shackle one like this, it's going to screw into the other end over here, so I strongly suggest that you use something like Loctite and you really torque this thing down, because the last thing you want to happen is you want that little pin coming out there accidentally. Okay, so this is something that you should consider if you have a piece of expensive gear or important gear that you don't want to have potentially being lost by something that could happen if this is pressed at the right angle or impinges upon something that could cause it to release. This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.